Hello again. So this is now our third lesson about technology tools. This is probably the most fun part of the classes, where you get to know some of the tools that I've used and some that I would recommend. And of course, there are a ton of stuff. So let's get started and see what we have. Up until now, we've already had 2 lessons online. We've done one-on-one coaching and we've done one PLC. So by the time we get to this lesson, we've already covered quite a lot of material and have gotten to know each other hopefully quite well. So here's the overview of today, and it is relatively simple. I'm going to provide you with examples of technology tools you can use in your class today. Before we start, I want us to get our mindset into a certain space. And I've chosen this video because it talks very clearly about how something that I want us to keep in mind.
Growing up, my father used to ask my brother and me what we had failed at the dinner table, which was so interesting, and he'd celebrate it, and he'd actually be disappointed if I didn't have something that I failed at that week. So I can remember saying, Dad, I tried out for this and I was horrible, and he would actually high-five me and say, congratulations, way to go. And what it did was just reframe my definition of failure. Failure for me became not trying versus the outcome. So many people don't take risks for fear of failure. They don't start the business. They don't go create the art they want to create, or they don't go try out to be in the play or whatever it is for the fear of failure. And once you redefine that for yourself and realize the failure is just not trying, then life opens up to you in many ways. And my dad would encourage me anytime something didn't go the way I expected it to, or maybe I got embarrassed by a situation, to write down where the hidden gifts were and what I got out of it. And I started realizing in everything there was some amazing nugget that I wouldn't have wanted to pass up. At Spanx, to encourage people to fail, I'm bringing up my failures in front of the team often. So I will stand up and I call them the oops of Spanx. Some of them are the oops throughout the history of Spanx. Some of them can be recent oops that I did, but I'm always openly talking about it. If you're going to have a oops, part of the beauty of it is twofold. If there's a failure quote or an oops in your life, if you learn from it and if you can laugh about it, then it's all worth it.
So with that keeping in mind, I want us to really go out and try, and don't worry about failing. And it's through our trying that we're only going to get better. So I really love that video, and I think it gives a good mindset for us to continue. So now we're going to go. So have you ever heard of that? There's an app for that. Do you remember that commercial? Well, today there's probably an app for anything you would like to do in the classroom. And it's probably, there are more apps than we can even go through. So I'm going to pick the ones that I feel are a good place to start when you're choosing to do a station rotation, individual rotation, lab rotation, any of them blended models in the classroom. So we'll start with looking at what I've used so far during this workshop. Right now I'm using Screencast-O-Matic. This is a great way to do a flipped classroom. You record yourself, you have prepared the slides, and that is a great way to prepare a lesson, share it with the kids. The parents can even watch it if they'd like as well, and it gives a very good way to do a flipped classroom model. Another thing I've been using throughout the class is something called Google Forms. Google Forms I've used here to get feedback. It gave me a good assessment of where we're at and where I'd want the students to be. It gave me a way to individualize your learning based on your needs and what your interests are. In class, I've used Google Forms as even a way to check children's readings. I would prepare the reading instead of on a worksheet, sit one-on-one, read with them. Every time they got it right, give a check. And at the end, Google Forms does everything for me statistics-wise. So I know that child A got 10 on 10. Child B only knew 8 words or sentences. So you can really think of Google Forms and how you would use it as classroom ongoing assessment and evaluation. Another thing we've used is last class I asked you to log into Today's Meet. Today's Meet probably works very well in the older grades when you would like to get the conversation going around the topic but outside the classroom. So it's a way for people to write out. Another thing I didn't touch upon though is that obviously it would be up to the teacher to monitor and make sure that there's proper what we call digital citizenship, that the children are staying on task. This is actually another benefit of using technology in a blended model, because it gives us an opportunity to discuss what is proper digital citizenship, and that's a whole other topic that I don't want to go into, but it's a good thing to keep in mind when we use technology. The last thing I used throughout this class is what we call the playlist. So the playlists were simple. I used Google Docs, and it were simple links that I created on content that I felt was relevant and a follow-up to the lesson. So sometimes homework or home learning does not require from the child to produce something, but it will require the child to watch the lesson, to watch an additional video, and then maybe write a comment about it on Today's Meet. I like this video because it represents this and this. I related to it because of that reason. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's what I've been using. Some of the things you can use in class are QR codes. So it's very common these days to use QR codes, and there's a way to get it, you get it as an app, and there's a way to get QR codes generator. So what happens is you'll put into this thing called QR code generator a link to a web page, a text file, a video, maybe children created work, and you'll generate a code, and you can put that code around the classroom. There are many, many, many ways we can use QR code, and I'll actually discuss it further at our last PLC when we meet together. But I'll add it on a playlist for us to get many ideas. Another thing that I've been using in my class is called Plickers, and it's a really great way to get assessment. So what you do is each child gets a QR code, such as this one, and if you see closely it says A, B, C, D, and if they turn it this way it's A, B, C, D, and the code, what it does is it helps me scan the room. So I'll put on the board, on the smart board, a question, and we might have a choices, multiple choice A, B, C, or D. The children, based on what they think, turn the code. I scan the room with my iPad, and I get a very quick way of knowing that everybody understand that. They absolutely adore it. It's just a very interactive way. Everybody has to answer. So it's not me standing there again and saying, this is, who said what? Let's say I'll give an example. In the month of Shvat, we celebrate the holiday of, and I might have a few children answer or calling up. So in this case, with the QR code, I give them a few options: Rosh Hashanah, Tu B'Shvat, Pesach, Sukkot, and they'll turn it, and we'll see the responses of how many kids know. You can do it also as a pre-assessment, an ongoing assessment, so on. EduCreations is a great tool that I've used because I wanted to connect the children's communication skills in Hebrew between reading, writing, and then and the oral language. We give them a lot of opportunities to write, and there are not many opportunities, I think, that you can really hear the children hear them read. So I'll give you an example. It's right here. This is what one of the children did. She wrote this on EduCreations, and then she had to read it out loud.
אבא בבית של גדי, גדי לא בבית, ואבא אוכל גלידה, ואבא אוכל באוטו, ואבא ואמא בחגיגה, של שרונה.
So as you could see, she wrote. My focus was not on fixing her writings, her actual writing. So my focus was to be able to see how is her reading and her progression of thought, and I thought that was a great little creative writing session. Sorry guys. So I'll move on. The next one, this is called Buddy Poke. Buddy Poke is another amazing way for the kids to be able to use a tool where they're showing us their ability to communicate in Hebrew. So in Buddy Poke, I just did one because I don't have access to the one the children created last year. But in Buddy Poke, often you can have two people talking together. So it's another way of also doing partnership. This is one of mine. But basically you create an avatar, and then when you speak, they talk.
שלום, אני בים. בים יש דגים. בים יש גלים. בים יש מים. בים יש שמש.
Don't I wish we were always at the beach. So moving on, I wanted to look at a few great Judaic studies ones. So back to blended learning model, often what we say is we want the learning to take place online. So in grade 1, there's Ariot Kal, which is a great way for you to also monitor. There's a lot of back-end information that is created about what the children have access through the program, and there's a lot of information going on to the software, which is a great tool. In grade 2, there is iTalam. Digital Jewish Interactive is an amazing company that now has quite several of things that they've created, but now also has something that's called Jewish Interactive Imagination or something, and they allow you to create your own lessons. So that is fantastic, using Jewish content. The last one that I've been using is called the Voice Memo. So it's simply on your phone where you click Voice Memo. I've asked the children, when we send home small reading books, to record themselves, and they would send me their recordings. So I'd be able to hear their reading at home. It encouraged the kids to read at home. It made sure from my end that I knew they did their reading, and we created a fun game where we've had a total of 100 submissions, and it didn't matter how many each child submitted. We had a big celebration in class celebrating that we are readers, and it's part of our who we are. So that can be done in any language. I just wanted to touch upon the Judaic studies. Last thing is, so our assignment for this week, because the next time I'm going to meet you is going to be one-on-one for a coaching session. So I would like you to prepare a lesson using the blended model. So again, go back to lesson 2 and look at what is your goal, which model is going to fit that goal, what technology tools are you going to need, and how are you going to set up. And just be ready to share that lesson during our one-on-one coaching time, so we can be together. We'll be able to tweak it, look at it, and evaluate it. And that's it. Have a great time. Bye-bye.